My name is John. I'm one of the pastors, and we have some special guests with us commemorating our 50th anniversary, representing the Agoura City Council. Linda Northrup, come on up. Let's hear it. Thank you. And I understand you have a presentation you'd like to make to Pastor Scott. Pastor Scott, come on up.
I don't know if this is, it is on. I'm glad I spent a minute or two thinking about this on the way over. We in the city of Agoura Hills are so thrilled that we have an opportunity to recognize all of you here today. My parents drove me here in 1971, so I came a few years after all of you, and little did I know as a teenager that some 40 odd years later I'd be standing up in front of a group of our citizens as a city council member. Our communities of faith are so important to our city, and we thank you for all that you do. And we want to present you with this certificate of recognition from the city of Agoura Hills in honor of your 50th anniversary.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. What was it like in 1967? Think back with me. But so we know who's the historians and who wasn't born. If you weren't even born by 1967, raise your hand. All right, listen up, youngins. Here's the story. Here's what was going on. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was 905. Average income was $7,300 that year. An average cost of a new car was $2,700, and gas was 33 cents a gallon. Movie tickets were $1.25, and minimum wage was $1.40. On TV, can you believe it? This were the hits: the Beverly Hillbillies, Doctor Who, General Hospital, and Hogan's Heroes. In the theater that year, The Graduate, Cool Hand Luke, Bonnie and Clyde, and The Jungle Book. But the thing we all remember were the sports events of that year. The first Super Bowls, 1967, Green Bay Packers beat who? The Kansas City Chiefs. Now, because we have a divided church between USC and UCLA fans, everybody was happy that year because the NCAA football champs were USC. The NCAA basketball champs were UCLA. World Series was won by the not San Diego Padres, they weren't even born yet. St. Louis Cardinals, and the NBA champions were the 76ers. Congress creates PBS that year. Because we have a special pastor who likes cars, we have one fact for you, Pastor Scott. The Carroll Shelby Mustang GT 500 Fastback was released that year. The musical Hair opens on Broadway. Aretha Franklin sings her song R.E. Yeah, see if you can spell that one. Rolling Stone began publication. And for McDonald's fans, the Big Mac debuts in 1967. And this on a more somber note, but was kind of interesting. It was a big deal. The U.S. and Russia sign a treaty not to nuke the moon. Who knew? On a more important note, though, in 1967, on March 5th, the hearts of people who wanted a Bible-teaching church in Agoura gathered together. It was Agoura at that time had less than 2,000 people. There were no churches, no piped water, and 2-lane roads. The new 101 freeway had just opened in April 5th of 1960, and the population grew. And so the story unfolds. Our chapter headings for this story are the 8 senior pastors and the 2 interim pastors who have shepherded this church since its inception. Now, I'm going to try to do 50 years in 5 minutes. Start the clocks. Founding pastor Erling Hofseth, March 1967 to January 1968. He's the founding pastor. He's the one who started that Thursday night Bible study with 13 people on Rainbow Crest Drive, 2 families in the Lake Lindero area. And Pastor Hofseth drives from Reseda Baptist, and he goes to rural Agoura. And this is a home missions outreach out here. And he teaches the Bible study from 1 John. By February, in less than a year, 1968, the church finally calls its permanent pastor, the second pastor, Harry Gay. He serves till 1973. 1968 is a big year because our first worship service is held right across the street at Agoura High School on April 7th. They'd meet there for 2 years. July 14th, they start Sunday school. There are 32 kids in Sunday school that day. And on December 8th, the charter date that Agoura Baptist Church is incorporated and actually then becomes in 1980 Agoura Bible Church. We then know that during those times that big things happen, and the next big event in the church's history is 1971, because if you were here at the time, you know this is when the first service is held on this property and at 5564 Foothill Drive. We buy the 3-acre property, get this, for $70,000. And so it's the only building in 1971. It was the current office building that we have today. Third pastor, Pastor Ed Hastings, from September 1973 to June 1977. 3 families who still attend this church, or until recently attended this church, became members under Pastor Hastings, and they all were here through 2012. June 1974 was the first of them, Bob and Laura Lee Burrows. Are they out here today, Bob and Laura Lee? There they are. Would you wave at them? Yeah. Then March 1975, Jim and Nancy Wilkes, and they would have been here, but they're now living in Washington. But this third couple, May 1977, Ron and Carolyn Brookman, are they here somewhere in the back? They now live in Montana. More about them later. And then the church goes to a 2-service format by July 74. And there's a bell out here. Have you ever seen this little bell that's over here? It used to be in our bell tower. That came from Paramount Ranch off the movie set of MASH. Don't know what it has to do with ABF, but it looks cool, all right? But it was our bell tower for many, many, many years. Pastor number 4 was Pastor Brad Barshaw from August 77 to July 1981. Brad's still in ministry. He's ministering in Hawaii. This guy knows how to retire well. And that was year 1979, a couple years after he started. We began Awana Clubs, and now it's in its 38th year. Commander Jim Wilkes started that in 1979, and Laura Lee Burrows and Carolyn Brookman were working with kindergartners and first graders. I think there were 13 of them in that year. And as we celebrate our 50th anniversary, that is the longest running ministry of the church. And I want to thank Casey Chandler, who's our captain and has been our commander for a number of years. Cubbies, Debbie Roll, Sparks, Lisa Chandler, Truth and Training, Russ Livergood, Trek Paula White, and Journey Paulette as well. Thank you for all your Wander leaders. I know we got to go fast, but just raise your hand if you were in Awana or have been involved in Awana in the past 50 years. Just raise your hand, whether you've been in it or serve in it. Look at half the church has come through that ministry. 5th pastor, Dr. Dave Gudgel, longest tenured pastor in the church, over 20 years. Average attendance was at its peak back in 1996, and we're getting kind of close to that number again today. Associate pastors in that era were Jim Liljergen in 82 and Mike San Martino in 1995. The Agape Singers were started in 1982. I said that very carefully because in the first service, I called them the Agape Sinners, and I kind of got messed up there. The Agape Singers began in 1982 under the auspices of Jim Liljergen. Jim, raise your hand. Back in the back there. And on this 50th anniversary, it is our second longest ministry, 35 years of that ministry being in existence. Thank you to Chad, who continues to lead that ministry. Our new multi-purpose building is dedicated in October of 83. For 32 years, it served well, and then we gutted it. And in 2015, the well reopened, and we use that even today. The children's building in 91, the youth building in 1997. All of those things were refreshed recently. I have not enough time to tell you all the staff that have been there, but we're going to introduce any of you who have been on staff in just a few moments. Then we had some times of transition, 10 years of it, and we had a couple of pastors, Pastor Tom Brewer and Pastor Dale Johnson, that served in that era. We also had 2 interims. Our first interim was Dr. Roland Niedernagel, and as you know, that was a tough time as he went to be with the Lord and died of a brain tumor at the end of his ministry. And then yours truly showed up in July of 2012 as the final interim pastor of this era, and that brought us to our 8th and current pastor, Pastor Scott Kegel. And he comes in March 11th 2013 from the windy city of Chicago. Adrian Kegel, his wife's our current children's director. And we had a complete remodeling this campus, if you didn't know that. And we dedicated this new campus on June 7th, 2015. Didn't borrow a dime, raised $600,000 in that refresh project, thanks to you. And that is the history of our church. Let's give it up, would you? Now, there are some people who have traveled a long way. Josh has got the microphone. You're going to start coming up. If you've been on staff anytime in the last 50 years, or if you've been an elder in the past 50 years, quickly be making your way to the front of the auditorium. We had 15 former elders in the first service, and so we'll see how many elders, current elders, former elders, staff. And we're going to start with the elders. Come on up, follow Josh all the way across the platform. This is a great photo op. Get your iPhones out. Post it on Instagram right now. This is good. All right. We have a lot of you. So there are people that are seated here. So I'm going to start with elders, and we'll put staff on this side. So elders, start the row here. Elders. Starting with elders, and we'll put staff on the other side. All right. So here we go. We're going to start, and we'll go over here, and come on up to the microphone with Josh. And elders, we'll start with elders right here. Gary, you're up. Say your name and just when you started coming to church. Go.
Gary Rafferty, 33 years ago.
All right, thank you. Come on up.
David Massey, 23 years ago.
All right. These are all elders.
Paul Alexander, 24 years ago.
All right.
Michael Rapping, I'm too old to remember how many years ago.
Michael, good to have you back.
Bob Cochran, 35 years ago.
All right.
Dave Hunners, 38 years.
Okay.
John Spock, 20 years ago.
Thank you.
Todd Flory, 25 years.
All right.
Dale Runston, 1980, and this is the greatest church to raise your kids in the Lord. Amen.
All right. All right. We're going to have you elders just, and one more coming over here for Bob Burrows. All right.
Thank you. Hi. I'm Bob Burrows. I was an elder 45 years ago.
Wow. All right, what I'm going to do is have the staff step on the platform while the elders come off the platform and surround Bob over here, and then Pat's going to take a quick picture of the elders while you're doing that. The staff are going to come up on the platform. We have a lot of staff. If you can name how many different youth pastors, I have a special award for you. We have chicken for you, special fried chicken just for you. All right. So we have a number of staff, and actually this is going to be great because I don't know everybody. So come on over. We'll start with you. Come on up. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Paul Powers.
Paul Powers. Paul, you were a youth pastor here? Do you know?
I helped with the youth, yes.
All right. He disavows any knowledge of your children. All right. Thank you, Paul. All right. And then who do we have here?
Sue Messenger, and just so thankful to the Lord for how the church is still growing in Him, and it was wonderful to be on staff 17 years, and I don't know how many years ago. I came in 1980.
And you were in the office? Or what did you do here? Yes.
17 years.
17 years.
Secretary to pastors.
Okay, you were secretary to one of these pastors. All right.
Jim Liljegren, 35 years and counting.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Jim.
I'm Ron Anderson, and I had the privilege of being the worship pastor here in 1999 and 2000.
All right. When I came, this young lady was on staff.
Hi, I'm Blythe. I was a student ministries assistant for a couple years.
Awesome. Great.
Hi, I'm Emily Guido. I was a bookkeeper, and I plan events, and I also I was a webmaster at the time.
All right. I'm going to have you two, you guys move down a little bit. I'm going to bring these two up here so they're in the light here. Come on up. This is a special one. What's your name? Do I know you?
I'm Carolyn Brookman.
Carolyn's been here a long time. You were our actual children's director for 7 years.
7 years.
But 38 years in Awana. All right, thank you so much. Now, I had to talk this guy to come up. That whole history thing is all on our Facebook page. Would you give a hand to Ron Brookman?
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you know that he still maintains our webpage from Montana? And our website, everything, and his eyes are on you. He's checking you out. All right, if you'll come over here, I think Pat will get a picture. We're so glad that all of the staff and elders could be with us. Elders, you can go ahead and have a seat, and then I'll let Pat get a picture of these folks.